wanted to create a convention that we felt like was truly built from the ground up to be very inclusive of everyone, like make everyone feel like they really belong in the world of fandom, because they do. Everybody deserves a seat at the table and deserves to feel comfortable and safe attending events, and not to be shut out of like networking opportunities and fun stuff to do. So that was the original impetus, and it's been so much fun that we keep doing it, just because it's the number of awesome people that we've met along the way, and just how much everyone, including us, looks forward to that weekend in October every year. It's not that big a stretch to say that sometimes people do go and then come out a little bit changed on the other side of it, at least in terms of their new friends and their new thoughts on things, and like rejuvenated inspiration.
I think the conversations is what Jessi means. When you come out of it and you've had all of these amazing conversations that you don't necessarily get to have in everyday life, people who are smart and funny and usually quite goofy, and it's becoming a family.
And that starts with our show and our means of taking care of you, which is by entertaining you. And that involves us telling you all the reasons why you decided to attend. I'm sure you know them well. But now it's time to turn the spotlight on the Multiverse Convention with your host, Joe Compton. Yes, hello everybody, and welcome back to Spotlight on the Multiverse. I am Joe Compton, and I'm joined by one of my favorite people, first and foremost. But definitely, I mean, if you don't get a chance, if you've never been to Multiverse and you get a chance to have a conversation with this man, it is well worth it. Trust me. But he is the sci-fi track director, Mr. Woodrow Hill. Woody, nice to see you, my friend.
I am Woodrow. It's nice to see you too, Joe. How are you doing?
Good. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, who you are, and how you became to be the sci-fi director.
Through whittling my hips. All right. So, as some folks know, I spent most of my 20s, 30s, and into my 40s as a belly dancer and as a member of Society for Creative Anachronism. In both of those capacities, especially the SCA one. SCA is short for Society for Creative Anachronism. I did coordination, organization, planning, stuff like that, which is why a lot of people will be like, didn't you used to go to cons? I went, yes, before I found other hobbies. So when I started coming back to the con spaces, I'd say in the early 2000s, I found myself doing panels at various cons, basically a few places up and down the Eastern Seaboard. And that led me to eventually gathering up both knowledge about doing some organizational stuff outside of con spaces and doing panels within the con space, kind of seeing what they were structured like. And that led me to when I started doing Multiverse Con, which I literally stumbled over along with my lovely fiance, because we were going to go see something completely different and happened to be in the same hotel at the same time.
Wow.
We loved it. We continue to love it. We've been to almost every one of them. And, year before last, I went and said, hey, can I help? And that's how I ended up doing this wonderful, wonderful job.
So last year was your first year as director. Talk a little bit about what you learned from last year that you're applying to this year.
Woo! Lesson 1 and 2 is, you know what? It really does take a village.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to say also that it takes a village not just to do this job, and the other jobs evolve around Multiverse, but also just to think about and organize what panels are going to be really awesome for everyone. So in both of those roles, I'm wonderful person, Darren Bush, the professor, has stepped in and offered to help out. And he has really, helped me think through and reshape some of the panel ideas I had last year. We got great feedback on all of them, but I want to do more. I want to continue to evolve it. I want every year to be interesting and special for everyone who attends. if nothing else, then just for myself and the other folks who work so hard to bring Multiverse to everyone who comes.
So what's new this year? What new things can we expect from the sci-fi track?
Well, we're going to kick off the con based on the current schedule with a Darren idea. Darren came up with something so amazing yet so obvious that I was like, oh wow, this really should go forward. And we're titling it right now, That's Not Science Fiction. And it's pretty obvious. It's what it says on the tin, but we're trying to be able to bring that multiverse thoughtfulness and engagement to the idea of, hey, we talk a lot about what science fiction is, but what does it really mean to the individual panelists, maybe to the audience members, and so forth. We may not come to a consensus, but we hope to make it at least not contentious for the sake of contentiousness. We want to really have an interesting discussion about science fiction where it is today.
I could already think of a fandom that is going to be very interested in that panel. Maybe 2 or 3, but definitely one that I know of would be very interested in that panel.
Yeah.
Something that's interesting too is you learn about the pacing of Multiverse a little bit in getting involved in it, I would imagine. So how was that for you? Did you feel like you had the right kind of pacing for your track last year, or do you feel like there's some adjustments you had to make there as well?
Oh, there was definitely some adjustments. I as someone who can go really fast and sometimes not remember that I'm just human. I had a lot of help last year in kind of balancing out what was a very full schedule for a first-time track director, kind of learning things on the ground as he moved forward. So now, we're going to take a step back. We're going to kind of balance things between myself and Darren, and think about again. This is part of why we're having a more, I love to use this word, more diverse selection of panel types, so that we can kind of bring in that, more variety and shape in what we're doing here. But to your point, part of what I learned as well was, not just pacing in terms of my physical and mental demeanor, but also pacing in terms of how I shape up the road to getting to Multiverse in Atlanta in October. And that's really, there's a lot of little details there, but there's a lot of things that I've done this year that were very different than last year, things I'm still learning and trying to remember. And Vanessa's been very patient with me around a lot of that, as definitely has Darren, as we try to get things into a pattern that's going to be sustainable over the next few years, no matter who's in charge.
We get some people here. Anita's here. Tiffany's here. Heather's here. Hello, all. Thank you for joining us. So, what did work for you last year? Let's gleam on the positive. What did you feel like really was successful that you're bringing back this year?
Oh boy! So I'm going to cheat a little and jump ahead, and I'll jump ahead where I think you're going to ask me, and say that we actually don't have that many repeating panels last year.
Nice.
Not because we didn't like them. There are plenty of panels I loved, and I'll talk about them in a second, but because we had so many interesting ideas between myself, between the people I talked to at the event, between what the people who, sing for access and, and wanting to be guests have consent, and what Darren especially has brought to the table this year, as I've mentioned before. All props to him for a lot of really amazing ideas. But the one I did say, let's bring it back, was A Superhuman Woman, because I love that panel so much. And it was it wasn't just engaging, it was illuminating. It was one of those things that made you sit there and go, wow, I can really understand so much of what it must have been like. Not everything, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm a cishet male. But what it was like to be a woman, sitting there watching so many of these television shows that were trying in their own ways to shape up what does it mean to be a woman with power of various kinds across the decades on television, in books, and so forth. So that was just such a really interesting panel. I couldn't help but bring it back. We had some other really fun panels. I really liked the panel. I won't say the name of it directly because I just want to say that they stole it from Homeboys in Outer Space, which is a show that me and 3 other people in the world remember. But it was a panel about Blackness and how folks who look like me, quote unquote, experience this SF genre, especially outer space in the SF genre. And that was just, obviously it felt good to me. I think it felt good to others. I hope so. We just had a number of panels like that were just so engaging and really both fun, but also invigorating and thoughtful. We even had one of the 18 plus panels that I walked away from really thinking really hard about what I had thought was going to be an interesting panel about, how can I say this? Things that can help people.
Consent?
Huh?
The consent one you're talking about? Is that the
one?
Well,
it was partially about consent because it started off about technology in 18 plus areas. We'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And it became a conversation about, you're right, consent, about, what are we doing in these spaces and what's going to be the future of those spaces in some really invigorating ways. So
you and I were sitting next to each other during that panel. I remember, and I was going in between Monster Mash and that, and I really did not want to leave that panel because it was so riveting. It was an incredible conversation, and it really did. It did take a turn that probably was not expected to take, which was fine because that's the way things go at Multiverse.
Right.
But that is also the great and beautiful thing about Multiverse and these panels too, is that it does that. And so I was like glued to my seat going, fuck, I don't want to leave this, but I got to go back to Multiverse. I promised I'd be back at Multiverse. So I had to run out of there. But yeah, that was a really, really riveting panel. I'm wondering, speaking of late night panels, you're the first person I get to talk to about this. This year, the mandate came about, that you're going to only be allowed to do one nighttime panel so that people can enjoy the festivities of the dance and everything else that was going on. Have you thought about what that panel might be? You don't have to tell us, but I don't want to get you in trouble by telling us the panel ahead of time. But have you? Is that a conversation you and Darren have had about? Is that one of those ones where you had to really think about what you wanted to put there because it's going to be a special slot for you?
We have some interesting ideas that we're going to try to bring to the table with those evening slots at this point. One of which involves a crossover, he says, hinting, wink, wink, with another panel and another track. So we're really looking forward to that one, especially because what we're trying to do is make those slots very special, very interesting. So that people aren't just going, hey, yeah, there's an evening panel, which, we just discussed. We had an evening panel. It was really amazing. But we really want to make them, if we're going to do evening panel, we want to make them events. We want to make them something that someone looks at and goes, okay, it's worth me cutting my dinner short to come to this panel.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about the collaboration because there is some tracks that are going to be collaborating together. How's that been working out? Are you guys like bouncing off the ideas constantly to one another? Has it been a pretty fruitful conversation? I would imagine it's probably a lot like a Multiverse panel where everybody's got ideas and is speaking up a little bit.
I should drag Darren in here for this one too, because he did the majority of work on our side. He identified the idea of the panel actually, and then went and did the work to kind of get the collaboration together. And from what I saw of it, because I trust him, I was just like, you go for it, you set it up. Here's a couple of things I want to make sure we do, and he came back with this idea and laid it down. I was like, sweet, that's great. But one of the things that I think did happen, because I observed it in the communications I saw, was that back and forth that, hey, how we want structures, what are we looking at, how we want each of the tracks to kind of, shape this for their, for their idea of how this fits within their track and their ideas of where the track is going this year. So that was really interesting to observe.
You sat in your room the majority of the time that you were there that weekend. Kind of give everybody a sense of what it's like from your perspective, sitting in the back, listening to the panels and listening to the audience, and the interaction that you got from those panels within, the audience participating and everything like that. Give everybody, because I can say as much as
Right.
I've always said it about how Multiverse is such a different experience in a panel room, that it's like a sewing circle in a lot of respects. Like, it's a lot of good communication. But I would love to hear it from your perspective, because you're there the whole time and you're sitting in the back watching and observing all this.
Well, I will caveat by saying I wasn't there the whole time. As I said,
Most of the
there
time.
were some really amazing people who came in and helped, do things while I went to go take a break or eat
Fair
some
enough.
lunch or something like that. So, again, bless them for coming in on a, neophyte who was like, oh yeah, I can just schedule all this and run it all myself. Sure. And then them going, wait, you did what? That's it. What we're talking about when we talk about sitting there and watching people pull stuff together. I mean, I just said it. I just talked about the Superhuman Woman panel. But just over and over again, so many of the panels, and it's not me. I just come up with ideas and scribble some notes and do some stuff like that. It's the panelists who sit there and say, hey, let's make this rock. And the audience too, who's there to kind of not just in some cases, yeah, the audience is just there to learn, to observe, to kind of help understand. But in other cases, I would have audience members who came up and just said the most amazing things that took everybody's breath away. And there's nothing I can say to kind of give you that sense, because I'm not a breath taker kind of person, except insofar as how I just keep rambling until the clock's out. But seriously, the greatest thing about being there for so many panels at Multiverse is that, at the end of the day, when you finally get to put your head down, you barely can go to sleep because there's so many interesting ideas that you've been exposed to. And that so many ideas aren't just, as much as fun as it is to go debate, Star Wars or Star Trek or Hulk versus Thor. Hey, I'm a geek from way back. I got a comic collection to this day. But there's all these amazing ideas and concepts that we keep wanting to talk about. And part of why I started coming back to cons was that I had spent so many years doing research in the SCA and, sort of thinking on that level, that when I came to cons, I was like, I want to bring some of that energy into the con spaces I go into. Yeah. So I would search out cons that would really invigorate that kind of, hey, what are we doing here outside of just having fun and enjoying ourselves, enjoying being geeks with each other? Are there other things we can shape up? And the idea that we can aim for that IDIC, for those of us who are Star Trek fans, that infinite diversity, infinite combinations, and literally sit there and write out panels that are all about that infinite diversity, all about that infinite combinations, the geeky fun side, the kind of weird side, the hey, thoughtful ideas about the future and the past side. All that can be in one place at one time, and all you have to do is just show up, come to some panels, and then go eat some awesome food. Woo! What a challenge that must be.
And then hang out at the bar after all of that is over.
If you so choose.
If you so choose, yes. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to drink. You can just hang out. I mean, there's nothing that says you have to drink if you go to a bar. You can just hang out.
True that.
I am curious is there something on your radar this year that happened recently that you're looking to try and make sure you include in it? Is there like a special show or event or something that you looked at and you go, we should really talk about that this year?
There may be. Yes, I'm going to talk about another panel that we hope to be able to bring this year. I should point out very quickly that obviously things are subject to change without,
Right, absolutely, yeah.
as we move forward.
I'm getting Mr. Hill in trouble here by talking about this, so I apologize.
But we are planning to do a panel about specifically something that just hit 20 years, and given what just happened in this particular television show a couple of weeks ago, could be very interesting, which is basically Doctor Who at 20. And although this panel is meant to focus very adroitly and directly on the Eccleston year, well, I cannot imagine that the other topics won't be touched upon, at least in passing, with regards to where we are right now with that particular series / franchise.
Nice. So, tell us a little bit about what you've been doing other than Multiverse. What are you still dancing currently?
I'm actually trying to come back to dance.
Nice.
I was out of it for a long time. I recently went to a show, and my dance teacher, who is now in her 80s,
Awesome.
performed and literally looked at me and went, "What's your excuse?" So I am going to. I've started practicing again at home.
Nice.
I'm working on some things, and we'll see. I'm hopeful that the old soft shoe can get back out. Even though I never really did tap except for fun. And we'll see how that goes.
Is there something you get from dancing that you don't get from anything else?
Oh yeah. There is a sense of creative power that I get out of dance, that as much as I do other things, and I'm working on a book, I'm working on a couple of RPG supplements,
Nice.
and I have 4 or 5 other irons in the fire, whenever I'm not doing work.
Yeah.
But there's just this. I hesitate to call it freedom, because there's so much thoughtfulness and constraint, really interesting constraints in dance. Starting with the fact that unless you're a particularly talented dancer, you're probably performing to music, which automatically constrains you almost as if you're doing poetry. And just building off of that is an amazing experience that's really hard to bring words to, which hopefully can tell some people there just how different and how powerful dance can be. And I do miss that. So, yeah.
So you're working on RPG. Are you playing anything currently?
I am actually.
Yeah.
I literally just started a cyberpunk game 3 weeks ago. I think 3 weeks ago. Yeah. So I'm playing that. We only had a couple of sessions so far, but it's been a lot of fun.
That's one that has like some incredible artwork in it, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Yes. It's a little close to home in some ways, given everything in our world today. But
yeah.
it's really also an escape in some interesting ways. So
nice. And then you're writing supplements. Are you writing supplements for something specific you could talk about, or
I can't really talk. There's no contracts or anything. There's just, it's one of those things.
It's just a fandom kind of thing.
I'm keeping it close to my vest because I've been working on a couple ideas for like the last 4 or 5 years, and nothing's really been completed in a way I want it complete. So I'm trying to just kind of focus on getting those ideas out the door in some way, and not kind of babble about it too much.
No problem. So is the book science fiction?
The book is not science fiction. It's so those of you who've met my fiance, Know that her name is literally Mina, and she is a humongous Dracula file. I don't know if there's a term for it. She's literally the sort of person who, when you wake her up in the morning, you can say, "So tell me, what is the significance of the interactions between Mina and Lucy in Dracula?" And that will immediately wake her up. And then 2 hours later, you'll be able to, actually, go do something else. I just, because I love her so much, and she is so amazing with this. But over the years, my natural disinclination to like anything horror related has been slowly pushed away from me until I found my way into an idea where I am trying to do what I call book accurate crossover. Okay, so nominally the crossover is Sherlock Holmes and Dracula, but that's been done a billion times. My crossover idea is really about Mina Harker and Irene Adler.
Nice.
I've been working with this for so long, and I've got a few chapters tucked away. I stopped because I had some other ideas I really wanted to work on more than this immediately, and because I felt like I needed to do some more research. So it's on the shelf. We'll work through it, and in the meantime, I'm working on some other ideas, such as I'm actually working on a nonfiction thing because I was reading some interesting stuff about William Warren Marston, the creator, one of the creators, let's be clear, of Wonder Woman. And I was like, there's some stuff about that background that's A, fairly relevant to what we're going through today, and B, even with the really interesting scholarship that's been done over the last, say, decade or so about Marston, about the creation of Wonder Woman, I don't think is very well known. So I'm working on a little bit of that by right now just doing some research. I'm great at research.
Well, that's part of it, though. I mean, that's a really big part of putting something like this together, especially if you're combining two fandoms. You want to make sure that you're kind of either authentic enough or have some kind of base so that people don't get a little upset about what you're doing, right? So
yes.
So to wrap things up with you, my friend, tell everybody a little bit about what they would experience, and let's do this for people who might be attending Multiverse. What qualifications would you say you're looking for somebody to be a part of the sci-fi track?
Curiosity. I'll be honest. I'm looking for people who look at this track and go, "Wow, I have so much stuff to say, but I have even more stuff I want to listen to others say." And I say that not because I don't want these people to say things, but because I want to have amazing conversations across the panelists. And I think that starts with people who are really curious about the ideas that we're bringing, even the ones that quote unquote are just, things that are fandom fun stuff. Fandom fun stuff really matters too. That's the bedrock of why we do so much of this stuff. We bring in all of these amazing ideas and concepts, but as both Star Trek and Star Wars proved out, both of those are built on the bedrock of pulpy, fun, exciting action, and then you layer on interesting ideas on top of that. I mean, I remember the day I discovered that the original Star Wars movie was meant to be in part an analogy of the Vietnam War. And you're like, and then you read Lucas talking about it, like, oh, okay, so that's why he made those choices. That's why it looks the way it does. That's why he did that stuff in the prequels. Okay. But But you wouldn't get that. You wouldn't get to that necessarily if you didn't have the fun flying action and the exciting explosions and all that. So I don't ever want people to think we're discouraging that. But all that comes to me from a curiosity about the world and how stories are told and what we learn about those stories and about ourselves in the process.
Nice. I love all that. Anita says that I bet all the research I'll bet the research is involved. Sherlock research is tough enough without adding in Dracula.
I know her. Fran is an old friend of mine, if I can call her out. If that's who I think that is, I'm pretty sure it is. And some of this is your fault.
All right. Well, Mr. Hill, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to be here and to do all this. Tell everybody where they can find out what you're doing and keep track of you and get in touch with you.
The best way right now, honestly, is the Multiverse website, where hopefully something's about me still. I do have a Facebook. It's WJ Hill. And I'm not really on many other socials at this point, other than Facebook. My email is multiverse@woodrowhill.com because I still have an email address I use.
It's awesome. All right, everybody. Well, we'll be right back right after this. A little bit of a call to action for you authors out there, and then hopefully we'll have Jessi and York with us. Thank you, Thank you, Woodrow. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you. Everybody take care.
As we turn the spotlight on the Multiverse convention in October, we have breaking news. It went out! That's right, if you haven't checked your inbox lately, you might want to, because the opportunity to get a table at the coveted Authors Alley this year grows increasingly more difficult by the minute. The Authors Alley, sponsored by Falstaff Books, provides authors a chance to sell their books and swag at a dedicated table that funnels throughout the halls of the convention into the dealer hall, which also is another space you can sell at, and also has limited space. So, what are you waiting for? Go sign up now. Go get the link, sign up, and make sure that you are able to be part of the Multiverse convention in October, selling what we all came to see, your wonderful art. Yes, authors out there, please. If you didn't get the email and the link, email Multiverse immediately because time is running out and space is very short, and you should have it and you should be able to get to it. And if you're holding on to it, don't hold on to it very long. I mean, I'm not even sure if there's even space now. To be honest with you, the link went out about a week and a half ago. I think we were all at Con Carolinas when it went out. So that's almost 2 weeks ago now. So, and I know a lot of people immediately signed up the moment they got it. So, first come, first serve in a lot of respects. And they're trying to keep the traffic, flowing here. So it's helpful to, position everybody right away. So definitely look at that. And dealer hall is not without question too. You can also attend the dealer hall. Dealer hall is a little bit more, I think, on the pricier side than the Authors Alley, if I'm not mistaken, but it is still an available option as well. But those spaces are just as limited. That room is not as big as people think it is, although it is pretty big for dealer hall. You guys definitely want to do that as soon as humanly possible because it's going to be running out very, very soon. And then you won't have any opportunity to sell. I mean, you always have opportunity to sell. If you're good enough, you'll sell in an elevator or at your panel if you go to a panel and be there too and you make an impression. I think those are all good things as well. So I would definitely check all that out and do all of that. While we're waiting for Jessi to join us, I just want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the spotlight of the Multiverse, because if you missed it last week, we did a spotlight panel, and every other Friday from this point forward. So last Friday and every Friday. In fact, we're doing something this Friday, but typically we'll have a week off in between paneling, and it will be a panel, and then 2 weeks later another panel, and we're going to have something from the sci-fi track very soon. I was just talking to Woodrow off the air about that earlier, so that would be exciting. We also have a horror track one coming up, which is going to be awesome. I wish I could tell you about it, but we haven't nailed down everything about it yet, so I want to be careful about getting you too excited, but let's just put it this way. It's about a subject matter that has come to light in the last couple months based on a very popular thing that has happened in our culture. And so I'm sure with those clues, you can put 2 and 2 together, maybe a little bit, just think about fangs and banjos. Let's put it that way. That might give it a little bit more away. But we're trying to put that together and make that happen. So, yeah, Tiffany says, I love the panels. Yeah, the panels are really great. Last Friday, I wanted to do this because I wanted to call attention to these panels. Last Friday, we did an awesome writer's track panel on Got an Idea, Now What? And it was a really, really engaging conversation. Paige Christie was our moderator, and she had wonderful panelists that were talking about things that even an advanced writer, I know that most people will think that's a thing for a beginning writer, but there was a lot of little things that an advanced writer can pick up on, I think. And Anita, you were there, so correct me if I'm wrong if you felt like there was a couple things that maybe you picked up on, but there's really some really great information about those panels and about that cultivating an idea and how to keep it cultivated. And so definitely check that out. That is on our as in our videos right now on YouTube. You can go and on Facebook as well. So both of them are there. So if you're watching us from Facebook and if you're watching it from YouTube, both have the opportunity to watch that. They're both in playlists on those respective places that you watch our stuff on. Tiffany said, I watched the rewatch and it was awesome. Yeah, it was a really good panel. I was watching from behind the scenes. Yeah, Anita says it was an excellent panel. Love the different approaches talked about by the authors. Yeah, see, so this is a really great thing that we're able to bring you on virtually, and it gives you a good sense of what the multiverse paneling is like. This is very similar to, we're making sure that these panels are very similar to what you would experience at Multiverse if you were to attend. So another reason to come. We did a very first panel about 4 weeks ago. Sarah J. Stover was her idea and her panel. She ran the panel flawlessly because I was there as well. And I know I was on that panel. And it was a really great panel about things on screen that give you ideas and motivate you to be a better artist. And so that's a great panel as well. But we've got one coming up very soon on the 27th. And then on Friday, we're going to do something really, really unique and interesting for the gaming track and for the play track and the gaming area. If you don't know about the game room aspect of Multiverse, this is an opportunity for you to kind of gauge what it's about. A lot of people are hesitant to walk into big rooms where there's gaming going on and sit down and talk to complete strangers and game. But there's some really great games that go on, and these things go on all weekend. They go on late at night. They go on early in the morning. So whatever type of person you are with the gaming, you'll if you want to play a game and take a break from all the panels and everything like that, this is a really great room to do that in, and it is really friendly and cohesive and beautifully put together. And Sean does a really great job, SM Hillman, of making sure that the games are always flowing. He has some great helpers. He had Elizabeth Radwich with him last year, and then of course Liam Fisher helps as well, make sure that the gaming room runs smoothly. And so this Friday, I am, for the first time in my lifetime, going to play an RPG game. Mr. Hillman has a game that he and I are going to play, and So he's going to walk me through it and show this novice, a guy who would just walk into the game track on his own, which I would do because I had never done that kind of gaming before. I would be walking in. I mean, I've played tons of board games. I'm a big board game guy. So if there was a board game going on, that's a different story. And there are board games too. There's card games, all kinds of different things. You don't have like a poker tournament or anything like that per se. We did play Cards Against Humanity last year in the lobby, which was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that tremendously. I love that game. I did play that. But this is an RPG. This is a tabletop RPG. And so this was Sean's idea, and he wanted to showcase how, somebody in the game track can walk in and play a game and learn how to do it and, kind of get their feet wet a little bit. So come watch me make a complete ass of myself on Friday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern and 8:30 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Mountain, 6:30 Pacific. We are going to be doing Spotlight on the Multiverse game track tutorial. And like I said, I'll be the guinea pig for that. So I'll be the one who does the gaming, and Sean's going to walk me through it and lead me in a solo game. So that should be a lot of fun. And I look forward to seeing you all there for that. That being said, I'm not quite sure where my next guest is at. I ping them, so hopefully they show up here pretty soon. But let's let me play another reason to go to the multiverse here. I have a couple of them stashed away for this very purpose. And so here's the art show. So if you're an artist and you want to participate in art, this is one way to do it, and I'll try to see if I can get Jessi on the other side. All right, here you go, guys.
As we count down to the Multiverse Convention, one of the many opportunities is a chance to show your own artwork. Applications for the 2025 Multiverse Art Show are now open. Please note that Multiverse does not allow the sale of AI/ML-generated images in the art show. That space exists for display and sale of art created by human artists. They do allow approved artists to display and sell original art created with the aid of digital programs, e.g. Procreate or Illustrator. The Multiverse Art Show is a juried exhibition showcasing some of the best genre-related artists and artwork anywhere. They believe that great art is an essential part of fandom, and believe artists should be celebrated for their contributions in a fun exposition environment that fosters connection with genre fans. The display space, the panel fees, the commission, the auction format, the quick sale, Sunday sales, print sales, awards, sales logistics, and how to apply are all on the Multiverse website. Artists, including those displayed in the art show, may also sell prints of their work or similar products at a dealer hall table. If you're interested in applying for a dealer hall table, you can click on a different link to learn about how to get a table at the dealer hall. Artists participating in the art show will be given preferences for those tables. So show off your art and come and join us for another great Multiverse convention. We'll see you there.
Yeah, so you can do the artist thing if you want to. If you're an artist, maybe put some stuff out there and try and do that. That should be a lot of fun, and hopefully, I always budget a little bit for myself. Last year I budgeted it off a little bit because I wanted to certainly. Mr. Mason Adams had a picture a couple of years ago that I really enjoyed. I kicked myself because I didn't get it. So I made sure this year that I bought some art from him, and I did. And I would hang it on my wall, but I really should hang it on my wall. I just haven't had the opportunity. I've even got the frames for it. I just got to frame it. But I need to do that. I need to make sure that I put that up there. Note to self. All right. See, I learned something even here. But yeah, and so I bought some art, and I wish I could have bought more. I certainly will be looking to do that again this year, getting some prints and stuff like that. I mean, the art there is just flabbergasting. It is just, it's stellar. It's amazing stuff, and I think it's a wonderful thing that they do out there, and the art, you get to vote on your favorite art, and everything is really awesome. We've got a lot of great stuff happening at Go Indie now. Trying to give Jessi a chance to get in here, but so let me go over what we're doing this week, because this week we have that's not what I'm looking for. That was This Week in Indies. GIN, let's go. All right, there we go. All right, so this week we've got a full slate. Well, obviously you're here watching this show, and then Tuesday, tomorrow night, it is the penultimate episode of season 2 of First Time for Everything, as Juliet Rose welcomes in Ryan Null. He is a dark fantasy author who's created his own world, and it's really interesting. That should be a really, really fun conversation, because it's a unique way in which Ryan has kind of created something for himself. So I think it'll fascinate a lot of people in terms of what his mindset is and how he goes about it. And that'll be a really great conversation. And like I said, it is the first to the last episode of season 2. Next week is the season finale of that. But don't fret, we will have a season 3. I've already asked Juliet to come back in the fall, so that'll be exciting, and we'll do some more First Time for Everything's. We're just getting started with the brand new show from Bob Magoo called Page Numbers, and joining him on the second episode. And if you missed the first episode, it is in our archives and available on YouTube and Facebook, where it was just him talking about his stuff. That was the very first episode. But the second episode features Stuart Jaffe. If you don't know who Stuart is one of the guys who has been doing this longer than pretty much anybody I know. He's been around. He started before Kindle was even out there and self-publishing, and when it was, like, as he mentions, a dirty word. And they talk about that. They talk about how it's changed and evolved. It's a really, really awesome conversation that I got to edit and watch already. And that is a really, really good episode. And I think you glean a lot from that show and from that episode, especially. That'll be episode 2 of Page Numbers on Wednesday night. That will premiere at 8 o'clock. I should say First Time for Everything. Also at 8 p.m. Eastern will be the premiere. And then Friday, like we talked about earlier, it'll be me making a complete ass of myself as I play my first ever RPG game with Asim Hillman. It'll be 9:30 Eastern. We will start. Probably run that for about a couple hours. We'll see how that goes. I might flame out an hour into it. Who knows? I don't know if it's a game I could die in. So I'm not quite sure. I don't know much about the game I'm about to play, which is kind of the point. So you'll see me walk into utter chaos pretty much on Friday night for myself. Not Sean. Sean will be prepared. But that'll be Friday night. And then Saturday, our Saturday matinees are back. And we have a premiere of Saving the Seat, which is our 5th Saving the Seat of the year. And like we've been doing these every other week, myself and Brian Tan. And it is our review of 2 brand new indie films and 1 indie film that the one of the others hasn't seen. So we're introducing it. We take turns introducing a different film to each other. This week's films, I will give you a tiny bit of a spoiler and say that if you're wondering what I like and how I like certain films to be, this is a good week to come and watch this show, because these 3 films are films that are on the net positive side for me, and 2 of them. Very, very. The 2 new ones we have are Swingbout and Night Call, and they're very. The conversation that Brian and I had are very interesting about them. And then I exposed him to a film that was on my top 10 list. In fact, my number 2 film of 2023, which was Salesman. So you'll hear what Brian thinks about my choicing and how I did that. All right, everybody. Well, I think that we're not going to get our second guest tonight, and that's too bad, because Jessi's really great, and hopefully I'll be able to work it out with her and figure out if we can get her back here and do something different and do that. And thank you all for joining us for another Spotlight on the Multiverse. we'll be back next week with another great episode. And till then, remember that it's always time to go indie now. We'll see you again soon. Bye, everybody.